What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back and welcome in to the Seattle Mariners post-game recap. The Mariners lose the game and the series today. They fall 3-1 to the Boston Red Sox and fall to 37-36 on the season. As always, if you can do me the favor, like the video, comment your thoughts on the team and the game down below, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you are new or lurking to the channel. Appreciate everybody's support as always. This game just makes me more frustrated about Monday's game, to be honest. I didn't necessarily have high hopes that they would come in and defeat Garrett Crochet in this one. It doesn't excuse it. They still had opportunities today, right? They could have certainly done more offensively. They beat Crochet earlier in the year. Castillo, I'd say, was good, not great, good enough, but, could have been better against Crochet, I guess. So there certainly were, chances today. Doesn't mean that this game is a throwaway. But if you would have taken care of business on Monday, like you probably should and could have, then this wouldn't be for a series win. This would just be, you'd chalk it up in 5-1 homestand. You'd walk away happy and no harm, no foul. But because of Monday, a game where you're facing Lucas Giolito has been better his last couple starts, but you had opportunities in that game galore. You got a great start from Logan Gilbert. You had bases loaded, nobody out in the second inning, couldn't put a run across the board. You had first and second, nobody out in the seventh inning, couldn't put a run across the board. And again, frustrating because you lose that game 2-0, where even if you ground into a double play or hit a couple grounders in the seventh, you probably tie that baseball game up. So that one just becomes more frustrating. I talk about that a lot with some of these games, that the frustration level on a game will depend on what happens next. Had the Mariners won today, then, I start throwing Monday out a little bit. Hey, you made up for it to beat Garrett Crochet. They did that in Boston, right? They lost that first game, Bryce Miller, and they got shut out by Brian Bayo. Certainly not the level of frustrating that the first game of this series was. But then they come back and they beat Garrett Crochet in Fenway. So, it kind of, undoes the frustration a little bit. They weren't able to do that. So you kind of go back and go, well, there was your opportunity, to win this series. They do have a good homestand. They go 4-2. Talked about this yesterday. If Mariners can go 4-2 in every 6-game pocket, they'll be fine, and we will be celebrating at the end of the season something. Don't know what, but we will be celebrating. So this homestand overall, not a problem. But, you sweep Cleveland, you get a little momentum. I know Boston's come in playing a really good ball too, but they trade away, arguably their best hitter in Rafael Devers. You hope that maybe you get a little bit of, you have the momentum coming off the Cleveland series. Boston's a little deflated maybe with the trade, and you're able to take 2 out of 3 from them, and build off that sweep against Cleveland. Instead, yes, nice homestand, but the Cleveland momentum is not gone, but you just kind of like, hey, great, they sweep Cleveland, let's go. And then, okay. It's just not quite getting over that hump of really getting us to, I don't want to say buy back in, but getting us to kind of believe. I don't know. I don't know what the word is I'm necessarily looking for there, but because I don't want to say undone, because it is a good homestand. I would have taken 4-2 coming into it, but just couldn't find a way in this series, and that's frustrating after sweeping Cleveland. Pitching does a good job this series. I mean, the Red Sox scored 5 runs. That's the other thing that's frustrating, and some of that is just baseball. But the Mariners just aren't in position to let baseball happen to them. You know what I mean? Like if this team was 45-27 or something, then yeah, I'd chalk this up and go, dude, they won a blowout and they lost a couple of close games. Sometimes baseball sucks, but the Mariners can't afford to lose games where baseball just sucks. There's some of that in the series, right? The Mariners outscore Boston by 4 runs and lose this series. Like I said, they hold them to 5 runs. But if you get the 8 runs, that's what happens when you have the inconsistencies the Mariners have. They put up 8 runs yesterday, which is great. But then the other 2 games, they put up a total of 1 run. And today it scores on a wild pitch. And truthfully, probably what should have been an error on Duran on a fly ball that Randy hit. So, it's just the inconsistency with this team. And they've got to find a way. Maybe, I'm not a believer in, save your runs, but like, man, you couldn't have scored like 3 on Monday, 4 yesterday, and 2 today or something. I don't know. Like it's frustrating sometimes because this offense can look amazing, but then there's times you watch them play and you're just don't know what's going on with them at all. Really tough and maybe defining road trip coming up. A huge 10 games here for the Mariners. They will be in Chicago for 3. That's going to be tough. The Sox are a good team. Not the Sox, excuse me. The Cubs are a good team. And, Wrigley Field is just seems like a house of horrors for any visiting team. I know we don't play there too often, but something tells me that's going to be a tough series. And you go to Minnesota for 4, that's tough. And Texas for 3. Texas is playing decent ball now. That's a tough 10 games that I certainly don't want to use any 10 games to define a season. But if the Mariners, listen, they come out of that 5-5, you probably take it, right? Like, that's tough teams. You can break even with them and then hopefully, come home. And I think you've got Kansas City and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's been struggling. Kansas City isn't playing great. If you can go 5-1 there, then hey, amazing. You're 5-6 games over 500. That's fine. But this is a road trip where they could make a big statement. They could go 7-3, 6-4, and kind of go, hey, we're a contender. We're here. It could be a brutal road trip. I think I said homestand road trip. They could go 2-8, 1-9. I talked about it yesterday. You could play okay ball and go 2-8. That's what's scary about these road trips and why it's frustrating when the team drops games like Monday or, goes to Anaheim and loses 2 out of 3 or gets swept in Arizona. Not that Anaheim, LA, whatever. Not that those are like terrible baseball teams, but you should at least be going 3-3 there, right? If the Mariners went 3-3 on that road trip, they're 39-34. They find a way to win Monday and they're 40-33. We could look at that for close wins too. And I'm not talking about I'm not really talking about, they've snuck in some wins and just barely lost some games. I'm just talking about the competition. Baltimore, getting swept. You find a way to win one game there. Like, just imagine the Mariners had a 500 road trip, which isn't great, right? Anaheim and Arizona. They win one against Baltimore. And let's just take that. Just do that. That's 3 more wins. That's 40-33. But now they've put themselves in position where you're going on a very difficult road trip where I talked about again yesterday. I mean, you could go to Chicago and play okay and get swept. I know it sounds crazy. How do you play okay and get swept? But I mean, they could play 3 competitive baseball games against a potential World Series contender in the Cubs and come out of there with 3 losses. And I would have to go, that's baseball. But unfortunately, by losing past games, you put yourself in a position where you don't have to necessarily sweep the Cubs, but you'd love to somehow win that series, which is going to be difficult. So, knowing the Mariners, they'll find a way to put it somewhere in between. We know this team isn't going to completely bottom out because they've got to hold on to us for a little bit. So my guess is they'll somehow wiggle their way into like a 5-5 road trip. They'll win 1 in Chicago, 2 in Minnesota, and they'll win a series in Texas. Like, it will be something like that is my guess to what happens on this road trip. Truth usually lies in the middle somewhere. So let's go ahead and get into the box score for today's game. Again, apologize. The computer's still not up and running, so I'm in a different area, different room. So I do apologize about that. I'm not sure if it's going to be back up and running. Not really sure what's happening. Luis Castillo, 6 innings, 3 hits, 3 runs, all earned, 2 walks, 5 Ks. You just got to keep the home runs in the ballpark. The pitch to Story was not a terrible pitch by Castillo. And I certainly Castillo was fine. He was good enough to win this game. He's a 3.38 ERA in the season. Luis Castillo has been more than fine for the Seattle Mariners this year. Got to find a way to keep the ball in the ballpark, though. And really, the issue isn't so much the home run to Story. While frustrating, at least it wasn't the Trevor Story series where he hit like 9 home runs against the Mariners in a series, but it was the walk to Mayer before, right? That's the one where you've got to keep him in, because if you do that, fine, you give up 2 home runs, not that they would have, 2-1 still a loss, but, maybe it changes the dynamic of the game a little bit for the Mariners. So hey, only give up 3 hits, just got to keep the ball in the ballpark a little bit. Vargas throws a shutout innings in the 7th with a strikeout. Spire shutout inning in the 8th. And Bizzardo, listen, I know, but Bizzardo's been really, really good as of late. Throws a shutout 9th inning. His ERA is down to 3.22. Oh, man, he's going to get rocked his next time out, but I'm back on the Bizzardo train. I'll say this. Certainly trust Bizzardo over Trent Thornton right now, right? Like, for sure. So Bizzardo has been solid. Castillo threw 86 pitches, 54 for strikes. Could have sent him back out there for the 7th, maybe. But I think with the day off tomorrow, they managed it fine. Lineup was interesting today. No JP Crawford. I don't have a problem giving guys days off. And trying to give guys a day off and then give them back-to-back days off. I think that's a good thing for guys if you can do that. And if you're going to give JP Crawford a day off against a tough lefty in Crochet, JP's hit lefties fine, but giving him a day off against Crochet is probably not the worst time to do it. Having Dylan Moore lead off, though, a little frustrating for me. I mean, I get it. There's not, you look at this lineup and you go, who else? I might put on those days, if JP's off, I might put Randy in the leadoff spot because he can work walks and has some decent at bats just for that. Even Cal there, I don't think is like the worst option. I mean, you could look at it simply, who's your best hitter right now? Cal Raleigh, right? Give your best hitter the most at bats because Dylan Moore has been struggling. Now he had a hit today, and I thought had some better at bats, but the most crucial at bat in this game was probably in the bottom of the second. The Mariners actually hit Crochet a little bit in that inning, and had first and third 2 outs. Dylan Moore gets that at bat there. You're giving the most at bats to a guy that just doesn't deserve it right now. I'm not going to go too far into it. The lineup just, again, not a ton of options in there. But yeah, didn't love that. Mariners collect 6 hits, 1 walk, 10 Ks. Again, Garrett Crochet is really good. It's why you should have won Monday. Demo goes 1 for 4. Julio was 0 for 4. Was it point out something with Julio? It was interesting. I forgot who tweeted it out. Someone Mariners beat writer, and I guess it was from the Netflix series for the Red Sox, and they talked about with Julio something where like I talked about Julio a little bit yesterday. I don't want to go into it too much. That like he just, if it's not middle, he's not getting to it or something to those lines. Don't go check it out yourself. I thought that was interesting twofold. One, listen, there are holes and flaws in Julio's game. There's no doubt. Like I said yesterday, I don't think the critics of Julio are wrong necessarily. I do think we sometimes go to extremes, right? There's this, Julio's fine. Don't even criticize him because he's one of your best players, which I agree. I agree with 100%. Not 100%. Like he is one of your better players for sure. But there is legit criticisms. There are flaws in his swing. There are times where he's chasing outside, and even though he's cut down on the strikeouts, just goes to show that sometimes, strikeouts aren't necessarily always the worst thing because he still, it swings at pitches that you go, what are you doing? I lost my train of thought there for a second. But anyways, my point was going to be that, yes, Julio is still one of your better players when you factor everything in, but that doesn't mean there's not legitimate criticism. I talked about this yesterday, but, I'm obviously Julio's fine, right? But it is interesting that teams are pointing that stuff out. Now, I will say this. Most hitters want pitches, middle, mistakes, middle. I mean, it's also kind of like a what point a little bit also. Like, it's kind of one of those things where you go, oh, that's a fascinating point they made. But it's like, okay, I think most hitters, that's where they prefer the baseball is mistakes over the middle. Anyways, Cal 1 for 4 with a double. Polanco is 0 for 4. Randy 1 for 3. Technically a double, right, on the hit. We'll take it. It could have been an error on Duran and a walk. So Randy on board twice. Garver was 1 for 3. I thought he had a couple decent at-bats. Had a nice at-bat in the second after the Randy double, and advanced Randy to third base with a deep fly ball. We talk all the time how this team has struggled situational hitting. Garver does a nice job there. And then he has a base hit. He's actually hit Crochet pretty well this year. So nice game from Garver. Canzone pinched hit, grounded into the game-ending double play. I've been thinking about it more than I talked about yesterday because I think we'll see Luke Raley on Friday in Chicago. And I mentioned, I think Mastroboni is going to go down. I still think that's possible. Dom's probably the better hitter than Mastroboni. But now that I think about it, carrying Canzone and Raley does seem a little redundant, right? Like if Dom could play first base, maybe, you'd be more apt to keep him. If you were in the NL when the pitchers hit, then sure, because you have more opportunities for pinch hitters. But today, I think it is going to be Canzone because Mastroboni, I think they'll keep the depth for outfield and infield, to be honest. So my gut is actually that Canzone does go down. Solano 1 for 3 with a base hit. I think it was Jason Churchill that tweeted out that since April 25th, Solano has a 114 WRC plus. Solano is swinging the bat better. I talked about it a lot with him. He's not going to be a guy that you're going to see it really, obviously, because he doesn't have a lot of power. Like, obviously, Garver doesn't this year either. Or, maybe Rowdy Tellez is a good example, right? Like, Rowdy has some moments where he's really bad, but then he gets hot, and for 3 games in a row, he homers. He hits 3 home runs, which is an automatic, just huge boost to your numbers. Solano's going to have to be a slower, gradual climb. Now, it's also why home runs are valuable, right? Because if you can hit a bunch of them, that's great. It's automatic run scoring, it's slugging, it's all that. So You could look as an indictment on Solano too, but he's more of a singles, occasional double type hitter than a power guy. So he actually has kind of been for a month or so now the guy you did sign, the platoon guy that you signed here. So I know a couple people asked me if Solano would be gone when Rayleigh comes back. I don't think so. One, I think it leaves him with too many lefties. Solano is kind of doing the job he was signed to do for the last month, to be truthfully honest with everybody. Williamson was 1 for 3, and then Masterboni was 0 for 3. Masterboni is like, it's a 597 OPS, which is awful. And yet I think some of his at-bats have been solid. I mean, weird player this year, to be certain. So, frustrating series loss. It's a weird one because I didn't expect them to win today. So it's more like my frustration goes back to Monday. It is a good homestand, but now it's a really tough road trip. Good day off tomorrow. Hopefully, everybody rested. Should be all hands on deck for Chicago. That's really important. That should help a lot. I hate that all 3 games are like 11 a.m. starts, unfortunately. But that's Wrigley Field. Channel members, I'm going to try to do a live stream. Maybe, I can't Saturday. It's work on Saturday. Probably won't be able to do it during the Cubs series. I will do one for the Twins series. So be on the lookout for that. I'll go live for a game against the Minnesota Twins. So thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. And as always, go Mariners. Peace.